Welcome to Damsels in Dialogue, a podcast dedicated to female protagonists in fiction, film, and the stage. Co-hosted by Katie Zutter
and India Marie Paul. For our third season, we cover animation royalty as we discuss the female protagonists in the Disney Princess franchise and the impact they've had on women of all ages.
This episode, we discuss two classic Disney fairy tales, the princess who started it all, Snow White, and the princess who slept through it all, Aurora. All right, friends, we are back with more princesses.
All princesses. We got two. It's a double feature today.
Yeah, two of our classic ladies. They, are pretty sleepy.
They're a little tired.
We figured they could go together.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun putting them together. I know originally we had thought to put them together because we weren't sure if there was as much to unpack in each character development. But it was kind of fun. To go into them together and kind of compare the two. And these are two of the three classic original OG princesses. So it's kind of fun to dive into that era that seems so long ago.
Yes. Yeah. When I looked at the dates, I was like, oh, wait, this was forever ago.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 90 years. We're getting there.
Right. I mean, it's great. It's cool though. I'm really excited about it. So we are going to start with our first sleepy princess, Snow White. Now, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was made in 1937 by Disney. There was a lot of firsts that went into this. I'm going to talk very briefly before I get into the origin story, just so you can see where his mind was going. Yeah. And by his mind, I mean Disney, as if I know him personally.
Oh, yes.
Walt. So there was a couple things that inspired him. So he had been wanting to make it since he was 15. Oh. Which is a very long time. Yeah. And as a child, he saw in his hometown maybe or small town, he saw a live action film in 1916.
So a silent film
of Snow White. That film cannot be found.
Really?
It is lost.
That's so sad.
They found a still a still or two from it in 1990-ish. Yeah. But they can't find the film itself. So, but you can see a still of the peddler woman, coercing a beautiful maiden in a black and white photo. I was like, I'm sure I can pirate it somewhere. No, it does not exist. It does not exist.
Sad. It would have been so fun. Yeah.
So, sorry about that. He didn't take tons and tons of inspiration from that film in particular, from what I found. It was just he had seen it and was like,
I want to do that. Yeah.
Right. So when he wanted to make it a cartoon, which was a big deal, and he used the Grimm's fairy tales. Now, Grimm, I will say as a just warning. I don't know if the Grimm's brothers just really loved the name Snow White.
Oh my God, yeah.
But there are lots of stories that have nothing to do with each other, that are not the same characters, that involve Snow White and different characters and different families, and some have siblings and some don't, and some are in the woods and some are in a palace, and they're all different. So specifically, the story is specifically just Snow White. Okay. So if you want to read that original one, it's just plain old Snow White. If it's a Grimm tale, it has other words besides Snow White. It's not the one Disney used. Okay. So Grimm's tales tend to be a little darker. They're German. And just to go into a little bit about her character and brief synopses of this story and how, even though it's still fairly dark, the movie, they did make it nicer for the movie. You get a little fun bit about the name and why she was named that way, because the princess wanted a child, and she pricked her finger while she was working on her needlework while it was snowing outside her palace and her window frame. It's so dramatic. Yeah. So her blood trickles a little bit onto the snow against the window frame, and she's like, this is the most beautiful colors I've ever seen. I would love a child that is like white as the snow with this beautiful red as blood and this black as the windowsill, which Snow White is described as having black hair and is white as snow and red as blood. In the Grimm's translation, it doesn't say specifically what parts of her red as blood. Well, we've obviously interpreted it as it's her lips, but that was just like a fun little like, huh? So it was like an interesting, very like whimsical, dramatic namesake that I just wanted to mention. Same as the movie, mother dies. Well, I guess the movie we don't really know, but the mother dies shortly after. He remarries. Evil stepmother. They something interesting in the story is they don't really ever describe anything happening to the king. He just is like not mentioned again. So I'm like really confused how he let all this happen to his daughter. But you know, whatever. Maybe I don't know.
Magic. I don't know.
I don't really know. She still has the mirror and very vain mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of the wall of them all? And she is the fairest for a long time until Snow White turns 7. Now, this is where we start. We have some differences from the movie. So she is 7 when she is more beautiful than the queen. In Disney, they made her 14. When she is 7, that's everything that happens with the huntsman, where she's like, go get the huntsman, kill her, take her into the woods. I'm the prettiest. WTF. But what's a little different, and I do get the drama of it in the movies, she asks for the heart and has that beautiful box that's like super iconic and is on a lot of things. The design of that was A+. Instead, she wishes for the huntsman to return her lungs and her liver so she can eat them.
Well,
which she does. I mean, she doesn't know that it's a wild boar's lungs and liver. Yeah. But yes, she eats that and is like, yes, I am the prettiest. Haha.
Haha, let me eat you. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's
we
grim.
still have Snow White being like a very sweet, like the huntsman can't bear to hurt her. Yeah. We do have her running through the woods, and it's actually described in the story as like nothing in the woods hurt her. And the huntsman assumes that she's going to be eaten. I mean, she's a child. So he can't bear. Right. He can't do it, but he's like, it'll happen eventually. She'll never know. I just can't do it. I just like can't do it. You know? Yeah. So, but Snow White, like it's described as like it, you know, things are scary. She's running, she's scared, but like nothing comes after her, nothing hurts her. Yeah. She does go to the house. Another little deviation. The house is neat and orderly, very organized, to the point where they actually have their little evening meal set out ready to go with their little wine glasses and everything. They have all of their stuff. Yeah. Because back then, you know, wine and beer was like very casual.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So, and she is so cute. She's too polite. She doesn't want to eat everything from one plate.
Oh my gosh.
So she very carefully takes like a little bit from each plate and a little sip of wine from each cup. Oh my God. So she doesn't take all of someone's.
That's adorable.
Which is like kind of cute.
Yeah, like that's really sweet.
And then she has a little like Goldilocks moment where she goes up to the bedroom and like she's really tired and like one bed's too small for her, one bed's too big for her, and then the last bed is just right. Takes a little nap, you know, because she's 7. Yeah. So even though everything is small in the house, like it's also
perfect
small
for her. Yeah.
So it works out. Yeah. They do find her. They tell the story, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, you can stay. You can stay as long as you like. Why don't you keep house for us, and then we'll be good." And they tell her because she is now. I know I am gonna sound like a broken record, but she is 7, and I just want to preface that for when I continue the next little bit of the story. So much like the movie, they warn her about the queen, and everyone's a little nervous about the queen and how she's probably gonna try something. Yeah. And cool. Next day, they go off and do their business, just like the films. Now, this is where it deviates a little bit. They did truncate the story a touch, which I'm confused about, but I'll explain that later. Why I'm confused, why they thought they needed to truncate it, but whatever. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. Yeah. So then the queen obviously finds out, obviously furious. Yes. And for her first thing, she does not use any magic. She just uses like makeup and stuff and like disguises herself and because the mirror tells her Snow White is the fairest in this like cottage with these 7 little men.
Oh, great. Thanks, mirror.
Like she knows exactly where she is. So she travels all of this way. It's like mountains. She like travels so far. Distance makes no sense. Makes no sense. It's like literally 7 mountains. She has to travel to get to all of these. Like every time she goes there. Like,
don't you have people for this? Like, I don't...
Yeah, I have no idea. Not sure. But so she's like, oh, you know, she gets to the house and Snow White like opens the door and she's like, oh, like I have pretty wares. I have lace. Oh, you haven't had your stays done up properly in ages. Here's some new stays and I'll lace them up for you properly. New lacing ribbon is what I mean. Yeah. So Snow White's like, yeah, go for it.
Oh, yeah, great.
Comes to the house, laces her up so tight she passes out and dies. Leaves the house. She's like, great. Who's the fairest of them all? Me. Then the dwarves come back, find her
passed out,
seemingly dead.
Yep.
They cut off her, like undo her bodice, and then she can breathe again. She's fine, back to normal.
Okay. Yep.
They're like, you can't
let people in.
Stranger danger. And she's like, okay,
yeah, sure.
She's 7, guys. She's 7. Okay. Queen gets home. Fairest of them all. Next day. No, Snow White's the fairest of them all. Darn it. Yep. So then she uses some magic to make a little bit of magic to make a poison comb.
Okay. Yep.
Goes there. Dwarves do the same thing. Like, don't do it. They leave. She comes back. She's like, oh, look at all these pretty things. Do you want to buy them? And she's like, obviously, I'm 7. Yep. Buys them. And then she's like, oh, let me brush your hair. You haven't had your hair properly brushed. And I'm like, girl, that is verbatim what she said yesterday. Yeah. And you're still, but she's 7, guys. She's 7.
She's 7. Yep. Forgivable.
She's a child.
Forgivable. Yep.
Like, brushes her hair. The second the comb touches her hair, passes out dead, poisoned. Cool. Queen leaves. And mind you, she's using like makeup and stuff. So the 7-year-old is not noticing because she's 7.
No.
Dwarves come back. Dead, move the comb, she's fine.
Okay, because that's how the poison works,
because that makes her no, it things get weird. So then so great, cool.
Yeah,
it's fine, everything is good. They're like, girl, you cannot, like, stranger danger. And she's like, yes, great.
I hear you.
Queen gets home first of all, no, you're not. And she, at this point, she is fuming. She was like, I am taking her with me. I would rather die than have her be prettier than me. Like literally something she says. Like I will
flat out
literally die making sure she is not prettier than me.
Oh my God.
So then she, obviously read the story if you want a better interpretation and not Katie's interpretation.
This is the perfect interpretation. I love it.
So she goes into her, this is the part that is in the film. She has her special room that nobody's allowed in, where she does her big magic stuff that nobody knows about and nobody's allowed in. So she goes into there, makes this poison apple. Now the difference is the poison apple is white and red.
Oh.
So it has white parts and has like little like rosy red cheeks almost on this apple. Does herself up in makeup, cloak, peddler, goes back. And she's like, hey, I have these beautiful apples. And this time Snow White is like, well, they told me no.
Oh, okay, good.
No.
Good.
I can't buy those things from you. And she's like, oh, you can buy them from me. I will eat it with you. And she's like, okay, maybe. She cuts the apple and says, I will eat. Let me check to make sure I have the right. Yeah, she's like, I will eat the white part and you will eat the red part. Like she cuts them and she eats the white part because the red part was the only part that was poisoned.
That makes sense. Yep.
So she eats it first. Snow White sees she's fine. Goes, excellent. Magical, beautiful apple. Sold. Yep. She ate it. I can eat it. Yep. It hits her throat. Dead. Collapses dead. Classic. So then the dwarves find her. Obviously she's dead. They don't know what to do. They like brush her hair. They undo her stays. They do all the things that worked before. Didn't work. Bathed her. Couldn't remove anything from her that would fix this. So they are all super sad. And they were like, she's too pretty. We feel so bad. Like she's too pretty to like bury in the ground. We're going to build a glass coffin. So they make this glass coffin, carry it up the top of the mountain. Because like
casually. Yeah, that's what you do.
And they do take turns watching over her. This is where time also gets weird because the quote is many years go by. Okay. Many years. And she's not decayed. She still looks beautiful. She's just like
magically
aging.
In stasis. But she's aging?
In stasis. She is, think she's aging.
I would hope so if the prince
She is not decaying. Now, I could be wrong. She might be
a 7-year-old.
freaking 7, which would be terrifying and creepy. But many, many years go by, right? A prince comes, as one does, like casually
through the forest, up a mountain, look at this glass coffin.
He like stays with the dwarves first. He like runs into them, spends the night with them, hangs out, and then sees this coffin and goes, how much I will buy this from you. And they're like, no, we're not selling this to you. And he's like, well, give it to me out of the goodness of your heart because I love her.
Because I want it.
Yes.
Because she's pretty.
And they are so moved by this. They're like, yeah, you can have her.
It's like a trophy. It's so creepy.
Yes. And then he's like, cool, carry it down the mountain for me. And they're like, sure. So they start to carry it down the mountain and they trip and fall. So the casket moves and she moves, to which the piece of apple gets dislodged from her mouth and she's fine and wakes up. That is not the end.
Okay. Knocks it right out.
It knocks it out. It knocks it out of her throat. She's fine.
Great.
She's super confused, as of course. She has no idea where she is. He explains the whole thing to her and is like, I love you. And she's like, you seem sincere. I'm down.
Sure.
And that's like how it's phrased. Like all both of these fairy tales, a lot of them are like, they seem sincere.
Genuinely like, oh, it's okay.
Cool.
They meant it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I don't like that you're assuring me.
Yeah.
That you feel the need to assure me.
Yeah. It makes you feel like you didn't write someone who would be just fine.
That's a little concerning, but it's fine.
Yeah.
So he's like, can we get married? And she's like, yeah. So they get married. Now, this is where timey-wimey gets weird. So it's been many, many years. I assume she's gotten older.
I hope so.
But maybe she is just a 7-year-old. That would be terrifying. But I assume she's gotten older. Who knows? Now, the queen was invited to the wedding. So it can't be that many years ago because she's still alive.
Around, yeah.
Yeah. So now this whole time, she's been looking into this mirror and the mirror is like, yeah, you're the prettiest.
Yeah.
But then the day of this wedding, which is, the day she wakes up, because obviously.
Yeah. It's the same day,
it's, or, somewhere close, like she asks the mirror. The mirror's like, Snow White's prettiest. And for the first time, she is frightened. She is super scared. Yeah. And she doesn't know what to do. She thinks about not going. She decides to go anyway, gets dressed up, shows up, sees Snow White.
Okay.
Sees she's alive.
Yeah.
Is so scared that she is frozen in place. Meanwhile, they have already prepared iron shoes that have been heated over the fire that they then put on her feet and make her dance until she's dead. The end.
Wait. They invited her to kill her and she went?
The end. And then she danced until she died with iron fire feet.
Oh my God. I feel like that's darker than the eyes coming out from what? Like that's planning. That is planning to fully murder someone.
Yes.
By having them dance for them.
I was mortified.
That is so disturbing.
Like what? So I totally understand that they cut that part. Obviously.
Yeah.
Completely understand that they cut that part because holy crap. So she doesn't have a whole lot of character in the story.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a stranger danger story.
Yes, very much so.
And like a goodness of heart will lead you to people wanting to help you and everything. So, for like a little kid, there's a couple little values that you're like, okay, cute. But like some parts are really scary.
Yeah.
So that was the original work that Disney went with.
Okay.
Now they started working on it in 1934. He announced it. He was like, I'm going to make the first ever full-length feature film animated. And everyone was like, you're a joke.
What are you thinking? Yeah.
Literally, they called him and called the project Disney's Folly. Yeah. And like made fun of him for it because they're like, there's no way that's going to work.
Yeah.
And so it did become the first full-length cell animated feature in history.
That's incredible.
Which is just wild.
Yeah.
Now, there were a lot of concerns because they had come out with a short a little before that had a female main character. And they were like, you can't draw women. You can't draw people. Like, they look so bad. So there was like that concern. There was a lot of concern with Disney. Yeah. Now, I did want to just say the supervising director is David Hand, and he was there the whole time throughout the whole project. The story was written by a lot of men and one woman. Dorothy Ann Blank. I could find nothing about her. But her name was credited at the very, very end of the writing of the story. So that was kind of cool.
That's really cool.
The voice of Snow White was Adriana Caselotti. I'm probably pronouncing that right. But unfortunately, and I'm not sure why they did this, they uncredited her for like always. They always uncredited her, and they continue to do that in other films. There was a big rumor going around that her voice had been copywritten. That is not been proven. But she did. I mean, her voice is iconic and really did bring life to this like very naive, sweet girl.
Yeah.
It is a very unique voice, and it definitely set the bar because there are not many princesses or characters in general there that like are quite as recognizable as her.
Yeah.
So she really set the standard of that. Because, I mean, many characters have followed in her footsteps of being different, but like that was, I mean, it's iconic.
Yeah.
So a little bummer that she was uncredited all the time.
Did she sing for Snow White as well? She did both? I think she did.
She did. I think she did because there was no other names next to who had done Snow White.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you mimic that sound too. Like, I feel like she had to have sang it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And she just like kept being uncredited with Disney, and I'm not sure why they did that to her.
Yeah, the only rumor that I heard was that he wanted to make Snow White's voice its own thing. Like that it was her.
Right, but he used her for other things.
Yeah.
So that also doesn't make sense. Because he used her for other productions.
That's so interesting.
She was in other animated films and things. So I'm not really sure. Some other fun facts about her star power as far as not the actress, but the character itself.
Yes.
With Snow White, when adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
It is one of the top 10 films in the, ever in the entirety of North America, and the highest grossing animated film ever.
Yeah.
Ever to existed.
That's amazing.
At the time, it cost $1.5 million to make. Okay. It made over $8 million.
Oh my god!
And that is not the inflated.
That's the actual.
That's the actual. In 1937, it made $8 million.
That's insane. That is insane to think about. Something that blew my mind when I remembered what year this was done in.
Yeah.
So this was in color, which in itself is a feat of technology.
Oh, and I have something about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Right after this.
Wizard of Oz was 39. So this was before Wizard of Oz. The fact that it was in color and it was a whole new, brand new technology, I think was just so incredibly impressive. Rewatching it going, someone hand painted all of these stills.
And speaking of the hand painted, another woman who is very important to this film was Helen Auger. Now, Helen Auger was in the ink department. And she was the one who added the color to all of their faces, because at that time it was incredibly difficult to add color to faces. Yeah. And reds were very hard to do. So she had to very meticulously do it. And actually, when she left the company in 1941, they could no longer do that technique because no one had the skills.
Oh my gosh.
She was the only one who was able to do it.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
So,
I love that.
No one had the skills to replace her, so they had to just do something else.
Yep.
which is so cool to me. So there were a lot of there were quite a few for the time period. There were quite a few women working on some of these main big things. So now Sleeping Beauty she's next. Snow White. Yes. Because of its success, it every 5 to 10 years was re-released in theaters.
That's
it was
cool.
Brought back. It was brought back almost every 5 to 10 years ish for decades.
Yeah, you didn't have a VHS. You didn't have there's no way to watch it.
But overall, from its success, it is estimated to have made at least $418 million.
With the inflation? Or in general?
That's not the inflation of 18 million. That's over the years.
Yeah. That's incredible.
So that's just some of how she came to be. Now, this will be a little bit for both characters.
Yeah.
Something about just for Snow White in particular when making her and drawing her. They actually didn't like drawing her. They preferred drawing the queen.
Yes.
They liked her a lot better. They didn't have as much fun drawing Snow White.
Yep. You can tell the detail of the queen is much, much heavier.
Right. And that's frustrating because we're talking about Snow White here.
Yeah.
And, she's the main character and they didn't have as much fun drawing her. Yeah. So there wasn't as other than her being this sweet character that you see from, the original Grimm's fairy tale. There really wasn't a whole ton of thought into character development for her. They had a lot more fun doing the character development for the queen.
Yeah.
And it shows a lot.
Yeah.
She was a very interesting villain, a very interesting first villain. It's a little tough because especially in season 1 of our podcast, we were really able to deep dive on where they pulled different things and how they built upon the characters and how different people added to the characters. And early on, that really just wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Now I understand in this point because they're literally making history right now. By making this film. They're literally making history. So, they're just trying to make an enjoyable film. They're not trying to make like a groundbreaking character thing because they have so many other things they're doing. Yeah. So just as a foreshadowing of what is to come, they just didn't think about that as much.
Yeah.
Now going into the film itself, it is cute. Rewatching it as an adult, it is for babies.
Yeah, it's that I was struck with that. I'm like, wow, this is like I'm gonna give a song to sing while we do chores, and I'm gonna give us a song to sing while we wash our hands and when we work, and so it felt so catered to young children. And that's not a bad thing by any means. It just is a a very simple style of storytelling, and you can tell.
Yeah, and they cut something.
What did they cut?
They were going to
really long.
Yes, they were going to have her after the whole hand washing song and all of those things that take 1,000 years.
Yeah.
They also wanted a song where she taught them manners while they were eating.
Okay, so it was like very okay. Well, that's okay. Okay, good. But it was still really long.
Yes. All those. So I was really confused, going back to what I had mentioned before, why they cut the queen coming back 3 times. They only had her come the once. So I'm like, I'm not sure why they didn't have her come 3 times because that would have filled the time. You still could have had, because each of those songs is cute if it was, a quarter of the length.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So I'm like, I'm just confused why they didn't include those 2 other times.
The plot-driven.
And maybe they couldn't because they aged her up, which I am glad they did age her up a bit.
Yeah.
Because that would have been weird on the screen, I think, seeing a 7-year-old get woken up with a kiss, which is obviously not how it happens in the book. They added the kiss in.
The love's first kiss. Yeah.
And as a 7-year-old, that would have been kind of inappropriate. So I totally understand that they made her 14. I think that was still... I think they were this is just me guessing. I think they were trying to find an age that was old enough where that wasn't too creepy, but young enough that she would still be so naive to be like, yeah, I'll eat this apple.
Yes, where you believe that she has absolutely no... she's kind of playing house when she takes charge of this cottage and tells these grown men what to do.
She's a Slytherin. She is the sweetest Slytherin who has ever existed. Because she walks in and goes, I'm in charge.
I was really impressed, actually, rewatching it. I'm like, man, if you think about the reality of her just walking in and then tells him you can't have food until you wash your hands. Yes! You can't, she just completely takes over and plays like mom to these grown men.
Yes!
It's just...
grown men.
Yeah. It was fascinating It
just cracks me up. And they just, go with it.
Oh, yeah.
They're, confused at first.
Yeah.
But then they go with it.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they do love her immediately.
Oh,
she is very endearing. She is not rude about it. She is very endearing how she gets everything done. I do like that they kind of allowed her to play house.
Yeah.
Because in the Grimm's fairy tale, it's like, okay, they're already organized and they're just like, oh, keep up the house.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cute. I like that little turn of them.
It felt very childlike and very
messy.
fun.
Yeah. And it's definitely cute for kids.
Yeah.
Or little kids.
Yes.
Little kids. I think her color blocking, so pretty.
Yes.
With like the blue on top with the red and then the yellow. Like she is such a bright and interesting, like that's an interesting colors and interesting accents to look at. I think for like really young toddlers.
All the primary colors. It's
that's like super fun.
Yeah.
For them. So I think her character design was like really spot on.
Yeah.
And those little dresses that they make for kids.
It's just
like,
so stinking
they're
cute.
so stinking cute.
Yeah. It's adorable. Yes.
It's like,
it's adorable.
That was very well thought out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a little bit things take too long for my taste.
Yeah.
I wish there was, because none of the other movies really do this.
No, it feels like a studio that had been doing shorts of animals and bits. And
which is what Mickey Mouse, hello?
Yes, it's exactly what they did. Like I was watching it going, oh, we're doing a whole bunch of cute things with squirrels, and the animal cleaning song is really cute and very fun. Cute. And it feels like a short where we're just seeing all of these animals do it because all these little bits and little gags and little things. I'm like, oh, they're like, this is what we know how to do. So we're going to fill this film with these animals who do things. And it's really, really what they kind of did. But it was what at that time period was also expected of animated features, of those little slapsticky things and those little jokes and physical humor and all of that.
And I think that stuff aged very well when you look at it from the eyes of, babies and young toddlers. I think that little slapsticky cute animals, when they're like scooting them away because they're like not doing it right and stuff like that, kids still are like, that's cute.
And we're barely out of silent films at this point in American history. So the dialogue is very minimal, but it also wasn't a world in which huge amounts of dialogue was even necessary. So a lot of the performance, you can tell, is of its time and written for that time. But it aged fine because it wasn't overly developed in any way.
No. It's definitely boring as an adult to watch.
Yeah.
But and Snow White as a character, the reason she didn't make it through Maid Madness very far, because she is in a lot of the movie.
She is.
I will give her that. She is in a lot of the movie. However, she doesn't necessarily move the plot along a whole ton.
Yeah.
It's that same idea that we have nowadays where it's the girl is so kind and sweet and people just take pity on her and love her.
Yeah.
And everyone bends to her.
Yeah.
So it's a little tough deep diving into her character. Not that she's a bad character. She's not. She's very good for little kids to look at, this like kind, sweet people like her because she is so kind and sweet.
Yeah.
We do have it like she's teaching manners of like washing your hands and cleaning the house. And she bakes, she makes the gooseberry pies.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that thing that like little girls would go home and play house and play kitchen and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't make her bad. She's just not like heroic. She's
things happen to her. She's really a victim in this movie. I was looking at it going, this is where it started. This is where the heroine, and as we know it now, like I'm sure there was this trope has been around for centuries before Disney put it in an animated film, but the princess trope, I really think of our society is built upon her talking to birds. Yes. Her being super, super sweet and singing and wishing of love and even the kiss. Like there's so many things that happen in this. The evil stepmother that are now iconic tropes through Disney itself. And I think we have learned fairy tales from Disney. Yes. They had the Grimm fairy tales and there are other fairy tale books that we had read, but a lot of nowadays people get fairy tales from Disney. So
for sure.
She was the original. She began the constant bird talking and the constant like it's really interesting to see her do that. And that she was washing the stairs and she was worried about her peasant look when the prince came. It was really sweet. And he's just like Romeo and Julieting her on the balcony. So there's some really sweet little things that she began and are iconic. And I believed everything that happened to her. She was terrified of the forest. She did a lot of screaming.
Oh, yeah.
in the forest. Throwing herself on the floor and crying, which became a common imagery in Disney Princess.
Which is so funny that people complain about that. I'm like, they go through so much. Let them cry it out.
It's justified. This is very, it's an iconic look, the throwing yourself on the bed or like on the ground. But a man just tried to kill her. Yeah. A dagger was pulled on this child.
And told her that her stepmother wanted, like,
it's a lot.
There's so much to unpack.
Yeah. It's a lot to deal with. I would be screaming too. I was impressed that she like was hanging from a vine and then like dropped into like there's a huge fall in the middle of this scene. And I was like, wait, I did not remember
it's
that.
Like very Alice in Wonderland-ish.
Yeah.
Like you see where it started.
Yeah, it's like it plummeting for like, I'm like, is this like a 50-foot drop? Like what is happening?
Are you alive, girl? Yes. Are you alive?
Yes, exactly. She really did start it all, and it's sad that her character wasn't really she was built to be the princess in the story.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And she does have some of my favorite things that the Disney princesses the face characters have to do.
Yes.
Which just cracks me up. And these are two of them. Mm-hmm. Two of my favorite things that I've ever heard that the face characters have to do. Don't come for me, Disney. Because she has such a specific movement.
Yes.
She holds her hands like soft-boiled egg style. So it's always kind of like she's holding eggs.
Okay.
And she also is not allowed to put her elbows to her sides.
Because she never does the film when she's running. I'm like, man, you were just like flailing. Like, and I know they used actors to do, like they had actors perform a lot of scenes for them at this time period. Like who was running like that? Like who made her look like that? Oh, that's
my gosh. Yeah, it just like cracks me up.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just really funny.
It's Snow White. She does it well. She is the princess. She embodies what will become the standard for princesses as far as kindness and goodness and treating others very sweetly. And she does, she's very thankful, but she does stand up for herself as far as telling people what she'll tolerate and not tolerate with dinner. So, good on you. But I think she's a really interesting thing to go back to because to see how far we've gone. Even from her to Sleeping Beauty.
Right. And I was so shocked to see how successful she was.
Yeah.
When I watched it like myself as an adult, and I'm like, this isn't really fun to watch by myself.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it like you said, it's so iconic. Maybe it's that nostalgia.
Yes.
It kept coming back. And I'm so surprised that people still
kept going.
Loved it as much.
Yeah.
Because not as many movies like Sleeping Beauty did not get that.
No, it did
Cinderella's not. Was not as big as like still I think she had a couple, but like Snow White, it was often that it came back. So it I don't know if it's like nostalgia or just
probably
the historical significance.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's different watching it with little girl or little boy who loves it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is much more important, and then it keeps that nostalgia, which would make sense every like 7-ish years if they're redoing it. It's a whole new round of parents and their kids, and that maybe was also led up to the success of this film, making Snow White one of the most iconic characters.
And we all whistled the tunes, and it's just
Disney's Folly Who? Absolutely not. I would have loved to have been in the room.
Oh, just to watch him like walk by people and be like, I would have lived it up with that.
Well, now moving on a little bit, they did have Cinderella after this, and then they decided to do Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty was in 1959. Now that is 20-ish years later. So that was a pretty decent gap.
Yeah.
They had done other movies. But this was a princess movie.
Yeah.
Now this, when I tell you, I have not had more trouble finding an original work in my life.
Yep.
So the original is by Charles Perrault.
Yes.
It is a tale from 1697. And Charles Perrault is noted as the founder of the fairytale genre. He was before Grimm, before most. Not that fairy tales didn't exist before him, but he was the one who founded that genre of writing it down, making books of it. And
the literature of fairy tales. Yes. Yeah.
Now, Grimm took a lot of their stuff from him as well. So that makes things incredibly difficult.
Yep.
When Grimm, because it is super hard to find his original story.
Yep.
Charles Perrault's original story. I didn't end up finding it. I just had to like search the internet to make sure and like cross-reference and everything. The story's not that long, but it just took time.
Yeah.
And the closest I can find that is easily accessible to everybody is from the Blue Fairy book.
Oh, okay.
So if you are looking at collections, the Blue Fairy book has that rendition. It is like, you know, a different guy translating it and wording it. So there are slight differences, but it's the closest I could find to his original that is like actually printed, like out and about.
Was that Italian or French?
Charles Perrault is French.
Okay.
Charles Perrault is French. So it's all it was French first.
Yep.
And then Grimm's made it German.
Yep.
And then it went from there.
All the things.
So upon finding it, I was surprised at how different this story was.
Okay.
It is quite a bit different. There's still obviously some similarities, but it is much more different than just, we're changing an age or we're cutting a little bit. All of the stories, even the Grimm's, which the Grimm's story, the only thing they took from the Grimm's story was the name. Briar Rose, because the Grimm's version is called Briar Rose. So they did take that name from there. In the original tale, she does not have a name.
Oh, okay.
She's just Sleeping Beauty. All the stories start the same. It's the king and queen. Sad they can't have kids. We're going to skip through all the different versions of how they find out they have a kid, but then they have a child. They have a little girl. They're thrilled. So they have a beautiful christening where they invite, and this cracked me up. Because it was worded like they invited all the fairies of all the land. There were 7. Cracked me up. It like made it sound like there'd be like so many. And it was like there were 7 in total. I'm like, great. All of them were invited to be godmothers. So they had the christening. Then they had a big banquet. At the banquet, the king had commissioned these beautiful gold coffins, which were not what you think.
I was like, wait a minute.
This is like old school wording.
Okay.
So the coffins were bejeweled. They had beautiful silverware inside.
Okay.
It was, for the dinner.
Yes.
It was all of their gifts, thank you for being godmothers kind of thing for them. So they're all like getting into their meal and this old fairy shows up. They literally thought she was dead because she hasn't been seen in 50 years.
Okay.
She did not leave her tower. She had been known not to leave her tower very much, but literally had not been seen for 50 years. So they just like assumed she had passed away.
Yeah.
So they didn't invite her because she's probably dead. She's old and we haven't seen her.
Nothing
in 50 years.
Personal. Just didn't think you were alive. Yep.
Correct.
Yep. Great.
She was a little bummed.
Yes.
And then the king immediately was like, get her some stuff, get her a seat. Like, let's, don't worry about it. So, but obviously he had only commissioned the 7 coffins. So, she still got the dinner. She still got to eat. She still had the festivities, but she didn't have that beautiful gift. And she was mad. One of the youngest fairies heard her complaining about it. And she was like, I'm going to hide so she doesn't know I'm here and be the last one to bestow a gift just in case she pulls a fast one.
Yep. Okay.
Hindsight, amazing.
Well done. Well done.
So after that, they give all their gifts after the dinner, which this makes sense to me that they were kind of put together because some of them are very similar.
Yeah.
So the first gift was they were going to be the most beautiful girl in all the land. The second gift was the temperament of an angel. 3, do everything with grace. 4, dance to perfection. 5, sing like a nightingale. 6, play all music with skill. So you do see where that like she's beautiful, she can dance, she can sing.
Yeah.
You can kind of fit all that.
Yeah. They wrapped it up into the like,
they like wrapped it up really well for her. Now, the old fairy's gift was she will prick her hand on a spindle and die. Okay. That's it. That's all she says.
She is mad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very mad. Now, the last fairy comes out of her hiding spot and she's like, I can't erase it.
Yeah.
But I can adjust it. She says she will sleep for 100 years and when the king's son then will arrive and she will awake, is what she says.
Okay.
And so they feel a lot better. They still get rid of all the spinning wheels. They say, like, make it illegal. Cool. Now, the biggest difference is that she does not leave. They raise her.
In both versions or in the French?
All of the versions.
All the versions. Okay.
All of the versions that I read, she stays.
Huh.
There is nobody coming for her. She stays and lives with them and they just protect her by keeping spindles away from her.
Yeah.
And now they did take specifically the Charles Perrault version. They didn't take anything from the Grimms other than Briar Rose. But she grows up with them. Like literally both in Grimm's and this, like just it so happened when she was like 15 or 16, they say. Yeah. The king and queen happened to not be home. They, were away, and that's when this happened. So she's still, they grew up with her. She does find like an old woman up in a high room spinning because you assume that they needed it.
Someone has to be making stuff. Yeah.
So I'm sure they just did it in a way to keep it away from her. And maybe this person didn't know. It is literally not described as a fairy or
that's just a person.
It's literally just an old woman. Is up there doing that. Yeah. And in all of the stories, she is like, oh, let me try. And like fumbles because she's just eager and excited and doesn't really know, and grabs it and breaks her hand. Yeah. And then falls asleep. So, and that's in all of them. Yeah. The only difference in the Grimms is that she like dramatically falls onto a bed, which is not as good as the original story. Yeah. In the original story, they come back, they find her. The king orders her to be laid in like a beautiful tower. They put her in a bed. They lay her out. Because it's like an enchanted sleep, she does not age. She is kept beautiful. She is kept, she is looks like she could wake up any moment, but is asleep. So he like puts her there. Here's another just fun fairy tale time and distance, makes no sense. We then find out that the fairy who countered this magic was 12,000 leagues away, but a dwarf at the time of the prick. Yeah. But don't worry, there was a dwarf who had 7-league boots, meaning he could run each step with 7 leagues. So he ran to her and said, this happened. And she's like, got it. Gets under her fire chariot that is pulled by dragons.
It is not. That is the most extra thing I've ever heard. Yes.
And she gets back to the castle as fast as she can.
Oh my
God. To the king to be like, what happened? In the movies, the fairies are like, we messed up. So they put everybody to sleep so nobody knows they messed up. Instead, in the original story, the fairy decides that since checked her out, she's like, she's alive. She's good. My gift worked. Yep. She'll be awake in 100 years, but I don't want her to be alone. So she touches her magic wand to everyone in the palace but the king and queen and puts them all to sleep so that they will also wake up with her when she wakes up. Okay. So she will not be alone. The king and queen are not, because they're the king and queen.
Yeah, they got to do stuff.
They got to rule the kingdom. So it kind of sucks. But I did enjoy that how possibly the only named person. No, there are 3 named characters in this story. And one of them is Puff, her pet dog.
Why was that not included?
Puff, her pet dog, who she grew up with, was found asleep on her bed when they came home to check on her.
That's so sweet.
Like when the fairy came to be like, is she good? Like Puff was on the bed, like sleeping next to her. Like, that's I don't know what's wrong, Mom, but I'm here for you. So I thought that was really stinking cute. But not the king and queen. The king and queen started to be like, don't go in the palace. We're trying to keep everybody safe. Turns out they didn't need to do that, make decrees, because the fairy caused a beautiful forest to grow up around the area. And different versions of different translations of this is like the Beauty in the Forest, like the Sleeping Beauty in the Forest.
Yeah.
Then, 100 years go by. Yeah. Other people rule the kingdoms. The forest has really protected because it's been like 100 years. So it's been kind of forgotten. King is like, or a prince is out running through the woods, like doing his hunting, doing his whatever. Yeah. And he comes upon a castle, finds out from one of the men who work for him, like, oh, I heard stories of this, that there's this, princess in there. Yeah. But it's like a story. It's been like,
it's 100 years.
I heard that like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, it's for me. That's my destiny, the princess. And so he immediately goes there. Yep. Now, when he gets there, because the spell worked, the forest magically opens for him. So he is allowed in. It does describe, there's like a very short paragraph of describing like the scene and how devastated he was. Yeah. To walk around like sleeping death, essentially.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where all these people had dropped asleep. They did mention, which I do love that they put in the movie, like people like literally asleep while drinking.
That's
like literally just like the fairy just tapped them and whatever they were doing.
Yep.
And so that was kind of fun. He does make his way up the tower and finds her. Sees her and is like, oh my gosh, she's beautiful. And he kneels down at the bed next to her to like just take it all in. And she wakes up. There's no kiss in this either.
Yeah.
Because she wakes up because this is the spell. This is how it was crafted. This is how the gift was made, that he would be there and she would wake up. And something that I thought was kind of cute, and it was phrased really whimsically, was so she wakes up, confusion. He kind of explains, they talk, and she had nice, the fairy had gifted her nice dreams while she slept.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Which is like really, really sweet. So she didn't wake up scared or anything. She just like woke up a little confused.
Yeah.
And they started talking. And basically it was like, well, to not go into detail, long story short, after 4 hours of speaking, they had not even told half of what they had wanted to tell each other.
Oh.
Which I thought was a really cute.
Yeah.
Kind of quote. And I thought it was really endearing for her being 15, 16. Yeah. And him, if he's that impulsive, I assume he's a little bit on the younger side too. Yeah. So it was kind of cute to see this like
start of a relationship.
Yeah. Of them like really wanting to just talk to each other and stuff.
That's cute.
So that was kind of cute.
Yeah.
They do, the whole castle wakes up. Immediately starts to make dinner because it's a fairy tale.
Yep.
They do get married that night.
Yep, of course.
Married literally that night at the castle because everybody woke up. So they're all there again.
Yeah.
There was a really cute line too where she put on a dress and he was like, he described the lines of it and he's like, and he thought, oh, that reminds me of fashions that my grandmother wears, but it's okay because she still looks beautiful. Like didn't have the heart to tell her that she was
out of style.
Like super out of style.
That's right.
I'm like, that was also kind of endearing.
It makes me like him a little bit. We get a little like personality,
Right. Now, this is where the movie ends, but this is only half of the story.
Oh.
So the other half of the story is that after that happens, because he has a life. Yeah. So he goes home and he's like, oh yeah, I got lost in the woods. And they're like, okay. And the dad's like, cool, bought it, sold.
Yep.
And the mom's like, no, I think you're in love with somebody. So after years of trying to get him to tell them, does not.
But he's already married to her.
Yes, he's married to her. Does not tell them anything. Keeps it from them. Mom still thinks something's up. He, meanwhile, constantly is visiting the princess. Constantly going there, still spending time with her. Still, they have 2 children. They have one. Their first girl, their girl is called Dawn because she is beautiful as the dawn.
Yep.
And then their little boy is called Day because he is unbelievably more beautiful than Dawn.
Oh my goodness.
So their little girl is Day or Dawn and their little boy is Day.
Okay.
And it's described then you find out that his mom is part like from an ogre faction.
Oh.
And ogres like don't do kids. So she is like he kept it from her because he was scared.
Okay.
That he wouldn't be able to protect her.
Okay.
And his children.
Not the way I thought this was going. Okay.
I know. It gets weirder. So then the king dies.
Okay.
King dies.
Yep.
They have been married now for like arguably 5-6 years.
Okay. Yep.
So king dies. So now Prince is king. Prince is now king, and he's decided I'm king. I can keep her safe. We're gonna surprise. I'm married and I have children.
Yes. Secret life. Here
Tells
we are.
everybody, brings her back. All is good.
Yep.
Then because he's king, he's like, I got this. He's like, you know what? I think we're gonna go to war with this neighboring country. I'm gonna be gone for the summer.
Okay.
Cool. He's like, watch over the family and everything. Mom.
Yep.
Cool. He leaves. Mom sends him off to a cottage so nobody can see what she's about to do.
Oh no.
So she sends the 3 people off, like family, daughter-in-law, 2 grandbabies off to a cottage. And after a little bit, she asks one of her servants, she's like, today I would like to eat Dawn. Thank you. Tonight I will eat Dawn.
That is so gross.
Yeah. So he goes to kill Dawn and can't do it. Very Snow White. Very Snow White.
Okay.
Can't do it. Takes Dawn, hides her away in his own house.
Okay.
And for Dawn, because she is a little girl, she's like 4 or 5 at this point.
Yeah.
He kills a lamb. He figures that's close enough.
Yep.
So it works. She loves it. Great. Days go by. Time goes by. Then she goes, servant, I will be eating day today. Thank you. Tonight. Serve me day. With the same juices.
Oh my god.
Like the same,
The same way. I liked it.
Yeah, it was really good. So he goes back and he goes to kill Day, and Day's like, and it's really cute how they're described. Like the kids are like, there's a scene, like he walks up to kill them and they're doing something really childlike and cute.
Oh.
And he's younger and he can't do it. Does the same thing, takes Day away, hides him away, goes, and this time he kills a kid.
Oh yeah, like
not a
goat.
child.
Yeah. I was like a goat. I was like, wait a minute.
He kills a goat because he's like, they're like, this is a little boy. It's a little younger. Maybe we'll do this. She buys it. It's fine. Eats it. Great. Done. Over. Then time goes by. And she goes, you know what? I'm going to eat the mom today. I'm going to eat how it's phrased. It's not phrased like this in the Grimm's fairy tale, but in the original, it is how I'm going to eat my daughter-in-law today.
Okay.
So then he goes to kill her and he's like, this time I have to. She's going to kill me. Like, I can't, how on earth am I going to match a
full
grown,
human?
Like she's in her 20s.
Yeah.
It will be very hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
And he goes to kill her and the princess screams, do it. Do it because I want to see my children again.
Oh, because she thinks they're dead.
She thinks they're dead. Well, obviously now he can't do it because after hearing that, he's like, no, they're alive and well. They're at my house. So then he is like, well, I guess this is what we're doing. Takes her, hides her away, kills a hind. And Queen eats it. It's fine. Great.
Yeah.
Prince is still gone because he's supposed to be gone for months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the ogre likes to run around the edge of the perimeter of the grounds so that she can like hunt and stuff sometimes.
Of course.
And that's where she hears, because the princess had to, because they're little kids and he did something wrong. So she scolded Day and she could hear Day crying. So then she figures out that they hid them. Yep. She leaves the kids in their hiding spot because she's not sure exactly where the hiding spot is, ties up the servant, his wife and daughter, pulls out a vat of snakes, vipers, all of these things.
It's escalating so quickly.
She's going to dump them to kill everybody. And then the prince shows up, now king, shows up and he knows exactly what's going on. He comes in, he's like, absolutely not. She, for fear of what would happen, just dives into this vat and is killed. And the ending is like, after an appropriate amount of time, he's able to like go and try and console his wife and children and save them. So, because he came back early.
I feel like the family dynamics didn't really get worked out before he left in a way that maybe it should have. No, if that was a possibility, if that was like what, who was gonna stop the ex-queen from doing any of this stuff?
Is that crazy?
That is
obviously
insane.
Immediately Disney was like,
absolutely not.
The workers, the people who were writing it were like, we are cutting these. The second half is super convoluted and unnecessary. Yeah. And I do agree.
Yes. I don't know how you twist that.
Right. You can't. I do miss like a little bit of their relationship. I think is cute. How it builds and that they have kids and they really build a relationship for years before bringing her back out into the real world, which is also probably good for her. Get back into society. Yeah. Because I'm sure things have changed in 100 years,
Yeah, for sure.
Getting into the original story. That was the original story, guys. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, there's some differences. The Grimm's Brothers story is quite a bit shorter. And there's a couple others that are shorter. The Grimm's has like the frog tells. It's weird. It's the Grimm's made it kind of weird, but
even weirder.
Still, it's just like weird things. Like we don't have kids. Like a frog is like, you're gonna have a child. You're welcome.
Cool.
Because like reasons, but whatever. So obviously they went with the original. Yeah. Now talking about there was a lot that went on making this film because it encompassed almost an entire decade. He announced it in 1950 that he was doing it. Oh. They started like really working on it in 1951, and then it came out in 1959. So that's like a lot.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot.
It's a long time.
Of time. So I'm not going to go too into detail about this. I'll save that for after hours. But I am going to mention some things that are good for Aurora.
Yeah.
So the film is credited as being directed, and no spoilers here. I checked the after hours for why I phrase it like that.
Yeah.
By Clyde Geranimi. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
Okay.
But he did the final direction of it. Mary Costa was the voice of Aurora. She is a classically trained operatic soprano.
Yep.
I love that she was found at a party. So she was at a party and like was singing a song.
Yeah.
And one of the guys from Disney walks up to her and says, "I don't want to shock you, but I have been looking for an Aurora for 3 years. Will you please come audition? Like, would you consider auditioning?"
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And she's like, "Yeah." Doesn't that feels very Disney? Like,
yes, it does.
Like, you know, it
it's
feels
not
very
right.
the company.
I'll just, and then all of a sudden there's just someone there who's.
Yeah. So they had her come in. Something that I thought was interesting is not only did they have her sing, but they also had her do bird calls, which makes sense for Aurora.
Yeah.
When you think about it. Like a weird thing out of context. And I'm sure not many other characters had to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, okay.
Princesses at least. But that I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And you know, she booked it.
Yeah.
Her voice is they were looking for, because they had a hard time. They really wanted it to be a beautiful singing.
Yeah.
Because they went with like French Renaissance style across the board. They did the backgrounds first, and then had to make the characters match the backgrounds. These, I mean, the artwork of this is just absolutely phenomenal.
Stunning.
It's just amazing. Aurora evolved a lot over their process of drawing her because, you know, obviously she looks very different than the designs of Snow White. Like, we've already come a very long way. And even from Cinderella, she has a very distinct and different shape. There's a lot of angles and points to her. She does look a lot older. They wanted her to be a little more mature. They wanted her to have a mature voice, which is why they chose her. They were looking for more of a operatic classical vocalist. Oh my gosh, is her voice stunning. She's also stunning. Yeah. She's just like a beautiful human. She is the last surviving of the original princess voice actresses.
Yeah.
She did win an award in 2020. So
that's awesome.
Game on, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. They used live action models Helen Stanley for Aurora, which actually in this movie they didn't like. A lot of the designers were like, this is going to take us so long and it's so convoluted. We don't want to have these actors on set. And Disney's like, too bad.
Yep.
Helen Stanley went on to she did a lot.
Okay.
She did a lot of films as a stand-in and things for him, for Disney. Yeah. So the music, much like many other films, was nominated for a bunch of stuff. Yeah. It lost to Porgy and Bess.
Oh,
I get it.
That's fair.
I get it. But like, so it was around the same time as Porgy and Bess. Yeah. But that beat them out for the Academy and the Grammy.
It was a lot of the score was influenced by the ballet, correct?
By Tchaikovsky.
Yes.
A lot of things were influenced by Tchaikovsky. The name Aurora is from the ballet.
Yes.
And then, the music as well. I was interested to see why it was nominated for so many things. Yeah. If it was taken almost directly from
that feels
Tchaikovsky.
Weird.
Like a lot of it was reworked.
Yeah, but
it wasn't like casually influenced. It was like heavily. Yeah. Like, we want to do this. Yeah. So that like confused me a bit. And then one last just fun fact that doesn't have to do with Aurora before we get into more of the film itself. Because just so much about the making of this film has nothing to do with her.
Oh, like, all the background paint drama.
Right. Everything. We watched the Waking Sleeping Beauty. Yeah. So little of it is about that. Her.
I was so upset.
Right. There is a little bit about like more, they cared a little bit more about Aurora as a human than they did Snow White, which is nice. But it was the first animated film to be photographed in the Super Technorama 70 widescreen process, and the second to be filmed in the anamorphic widescreen, second to Lady and the Tramp. Now, with the story itself, as they were building it, so they did cut off the end. Right. Yes. They're like, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. That was an easy fix.
Yeah. She wakes up. Done.
Right. Yeah. It's cool. And we'll have her come down, meet everybody. It'll be great. Yeah. Now, something they lost by cutting it where they did is it's harder to have they wake up and then have this beautiful conversation. Yep. and see them get to know each other when that's the end. Like that's not a very
that's
big
not going
dramatic
up.
ending.
That's like stable building.
Right.
Yeah.
So which in the original story, because they're building on him kind of secreting her away and like their relationship grows and they have children and, you know, they have more time to be together.
Yeah.
But in this, because the way they cut it and everything, the writers were like, we need to do something because there's no reason for them to like each other, like none. So I am appreciative that they did that. They did have a couple different scenes in mind for this of different ways to get Philip to the area. Yeah. And then they finally settled upon, which I think is really endearing. Of all the different, there was like, they had a hunt going on, all these like random things that he would run into her. Yeah. But I do like that what they did end up on from the other options of them just like happenstance, in the woods.
With his horse, just like.
Right, with his horse. And it felt very much kind of like the original where he's like, he hears a story and he goes, that's me.
Let's go. Yes.
Like it felt very like impulsive and sweet. But you still got the sweetness of the original prince of like, oh, that's outdated, but it's okay. You're still cute. Yeah. Like you do get that like when he comes back and like his character seemed very good. Yeah. From like it seemed pretty tight and spot on from the original. Yeah. At least for the first bit. Yes. Of him being a little aloof but excited and young and everything. So I do like that they thought to be like, we need to build the relationship a little bit. Yeah. Get them to meet each other.
They fall in love before she goes to sleep. Like, so when
right. Yeah. Was it enough? I mean, not really, but also
fairy tale stuff.
They had to heavily edit this movie. So those are a lot of the big things they did. Now, I would love to know the difference of how she would have grown up if she had been in the palace.
Because she would have met Philip. Like at some point.
It would have been fine. Like, so I'm not sure what the deal was. And obviously they made it instead of like 100 years of sleep. Yeah. They didn't have to deal with that time passing and stuff. They made it a couple hours. Yeah. And him coming back and just gave him stuff to do. Yeah. So that it wasn't just he found her.
he has to work for, like he works harder than a lot of princes.
Yes.
I will say that.
He works so hard. He's also the first named prince.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun for him. Yeah. But we can talk more about him later because let's get into this film. So she has very few lines.
Yep. She does sing a couple songs.
She does. And they're beautiful. They're really, really like her I Wonder.
I love that song.
I know A Dream Is a Wish Her Heart Makes.
Once Upon
a Dream. Yeah. That one.
Yeah.
Not Dream Is Your Heart.
That's Cinderella, yeah.
Once Upon a Dream is, I get it. They needed to make this happen. They needed to make the connection. Yeah. He like uses the word play and like flirts his way in. Yeah. You know, it's very endearing. But I really like the one where she's singing and she's like, I wonder. Yeah. And it's not. It's kind of an I Want song.
It is. When you look at the lyrics.
Because it's her truly like, you know, everybody has somebody
I want someone
to be with and I don't have anybody. Yeah. Not that she doesn't enjoy her friends. She very much is like playful with them, with her little animal friends. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a really interesting thing where it's not that she is actively searching out like, I need a boyfriend. She's just like, I would love to have someone who also looks like me and is not one of my three crazy aunts.
Like this is not one of them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Them.
Yes.
It's so funny because she has so few lines.
Yes.
But her art style and how she reacts to them.
Yes.
Tells so much.
Yeah. You do still get a lot of who she is from the animation of her. Like she knows they're up to something. She very much exits going like, okay, I guess I'll go into the woods while they do whatever they're gonna do.
Right.
It's very sweet. Cool.
Yeah. They're doing something weird again. It's fine. I'll get more berries I got yesterday.
Go walk around the forest in my bare feet, you know? Yeah. I love that for her. I love
just
that
like
she's barefoot.
Whimsical.
Yeah. Living the best cottagecore life that you could ever want.
Oh my gosh. And she's like so tall and beautiful.
Yes. Yep.
And like elegant. You can see that she is still, even though she was taken away from the palace, you can see that they tried to make it look like you can't take the princess out of her.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
The grace and the,
Yeah, you still have that sweet, like you said, barefoot, cottage core, but like she is very upright. She's very regal, her very mature voice. Like
when she sits, it's always like right lounging gracefully.
Yes.
Yeah. It's very sweet. And I mean, beyond the I want someone, you don't get a whole bunch of depth, but you do get a little bit of her intelligence and you get a little bit of her sweetness. And I love when they actually do come together and dance, it's absolutely gorgeous. Like, he is a very good dancer. So I love that they come together for that.
They're very cute.
They're very cute. And the only part that it's purely in the animation, not even in the personality, I think. When they choose, when she's trying to get it, it's like, I want someone shows up. And then similar to Snow White, I guess, where they just run away. When he grabs her hands constantly as she's trying to leave. That's a big no-no. Like, don't grab people when they're trying to escape. But that was purely blocking by the animators. That did not need to happen.
For sure.
Like,
for sure.
It could have just been like even her stopping and being like, I don't know, and then just them talking across and coming together. Like, you didn't need the grabbing.
Well, and I didn't mind some of the grabbing because that is very imagery of like slipping through his fingers.
I get why they did it.
Like, I like the flirting aspect. If I run away and we've just been flirting and I'm like, I'm nervous and I start to walk away, like, run after me. I want that.
I get why.
I think it's that mix of maybe, did he need to be as grabby?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But
that's what
it didn't bother me as much as I know that it bothers you.
Well, it's one of those that, like, looking at it today, I can see how a lot of people would interpret it in such a like, oh no, like consent and all of that.
For sure.
But I do get the aspect and of the slipping away, and you know that she wants to like find someone, so you already have that. So it doesn't like horribly bother me, but I do get like, if we would do this film today, that would not be staged in that way.
Scene.
Yeah. But she does, like, they do fall, like, when he's and her, before they know each other's names, like, are cuddled on the tree looking out. I'm like, oh, they're just, what a romantic, like
already there.
Yeah, like, give me my, like, fan. I'm just gonna, like, go for, like, fan myself. I look at this romantic scene play out in front of me.
And it's just so beautiful.
And he instantly is so like, cute. Give up his royal duties and, like, I found a girl in the woods. We're gonna get married. Like,
oh my gosh, when he looks at Samson, when the king looks at Samson, he's like, is he joking? And Samson's like, nah. No. Samson the horse is like, no.
Yeah, I love the horse relationship. Is great.
It's just so funny. And it's so cute that, like, at the beginning of the movie, you see him kind of be like, I'm marrying a baby.
Yeah. Weird.
Because he's so little.
Yeah.
Like, he's like definitely like a very young child.
Yeah.
When he is brought up to meet her.
Yeah.
So it is very funny.
Yeah.
So he is probably, I didn't look up his age, but he can't be more than
it's just a couple of years older
20-ish because he's walking, but he is small.
Yeah.
When he meets her as a baby.
Yeah.
So, but like they did their best with trying to like build
the relationship beforehand and
trying to figure that out. Could that have happened while she was still at the castle and instead of having to whisk her away unnecessarily to a cabin in the woods? Probably.
Yeah. You would not get the irony of the irony is pretty great.
Yes.
That he refuses to marry Aurora because he found a girl in the woods and it's Aurora.
And it is Aurora.
Like,
that is a very
pretty
cute,
great. And that Briar Rose figures out she's a princess and is completely upset because she just met the man of her dreams.
And now she's a princess. And this bothers me too, because a lot of people will say, oh, well, like, she's so weepy. Like, her specifically, like, she's so weepy. I'm like, you're telling me that after 16 years of your life being one way, and then all of a sudden they say, by the way, you're a princess. You're going to have to rule a kingdom that you don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
You have not been trained.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you're going to marry a man that you do not know, like, tomorrow.
We're leaving now.
Oh, we're leaving now. Yeah. Here's your dress and your crown. Goodbye. Like, you're telling me you would not be in shock?
Yeah. And she was living a happy life. Like, she was not upset.
She was perfectly comfortable.
Yeah.
She just was lonely.
Yeah. And then she found someone.
Yeah.
And come on, fairies. What? You could not have just, like, waited that night to meet him. Or she couldn't have brought him to the cottage. I was so mad. Like, that's like, why?
Nope.
Her giving.
And if they would have waited, but then if they would have waited, then she wouldn't have.
I know.
Pricked her finger.
It would have been the whole thing. But I will say a personality thing of hers that you get very shortly is when she's running away and he's like, "Will I see you again?" Never, never.
Oh my gosh.
Her giving directions.
Someday.
Tonight.
She says
She's so aloof with someone she clearly wants to see again and then gives the worst directions. At the cottage. Where? In the Glen. What Glen are you talking about? Like, that's why it took him so long to get there. Like,
I know, the poor guy. She's so thrown.
Yeah.
Like, and that does, because a lot of times when you see her, she reads like an adult.
Yes. She does look really mature visually.
Right. And how she holds herself and everything. And and how she treats the fairies. Like,
okay.
I know.
Yeah.
So it is kind of nice to see a little bit of that, like, sheer panic, can't get the words she wants to say out.
Yeah.
Do I behave and say no? But like, I kind of really like him. Like,
yeah.
Never.
I guess I live in a college, maybe.
But also tonight.
Yeah. So like we get that little burst of her, and it's so sweet and so endearing.
Yeah. That cracks me up.
Yeah.
And then
she's asleep.
She is magicked.
Yeah.
So it is not, she's magicked up there and then falls asleep.
Yeah. I was upset that she didn't have any lines for so long. Like she is in the movie for quite a bit with no lines because she's just crying. And then when she wakes up, no lines. Like I was
she wakes up and then she's immediately magicked. So she cannot say anything.
Yeah. Like I just
what?
Can we give like one of like, it's you, something. We get nothing when she wakes up.
Yeah. No, she wakes up and it's not. They don't have that cute conversation.
No. Just not even just so like
I just want to tell you everything the moment I see you.
I would just like her to learn that it's Philip and that her to realize that it's you that has come to save me and it's like nothing. We get nothing.
Nope, and they just bring her down and she grandly meets mom and dad and that's it.
Yep. This is the first time that True Love's kiss is brought into play. I tried very hard in a past project to find out where True Love's kiss comes from, and it is not from fairy tales traditionally.
Mm-hmm. No, because it's not in this fairy tale at all.
It's not in fairy tales, and this is the first time that True Love's kiss and breaking curses is put into like a tale like this. And Maleficent says
Snow White.
No, it's Love's first kiss.
Not True Love.
It's not True Love. It's Love's first kiss.
Okay.
I was like, I listened really close.
Kiss.
And Maleficent says Love's first kiss. So I don't know if that was a mistake that she made, but Merriweather says True Love. So, but this is like the first mention of True Love's kiss, breaking curses.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Because it seems like it should be really from something way earlier than this, but.
No, it's not. That's not a thing. Yep. Like they just were adding kisses left and right.
Yep. Because,
for no reason.
Yeah.
It's fine. I did, though, speaking of the kisses and everything.
Yes.
Because these characters are classics, I would love to just briefly talk about, compare the two. Because something that was a big complaint, there were two things that were complaints. One was like, it flopped because the story was the same. There was so many similarities with Snow White, which I see, especially from the original story. There's a lot of similarities. I totally get it. But also, one of the critics' big critique is they're like, oh, it's the same exact girl. She looks the same. She's drawn the same. And I'm like, what?
Wait a minute.
Did we see the same movie?
Definitely not.
Because, yes, are they both kind and sweet?
Yes.
For sure. Does one behave like an aloof 14-year-old and the other one behaves like a very mature 20-year-old who gets frazzled every once in a while? Yes. I think their personalities still are fairly different.
Yeah.
And they look nothing alike.
No, they don't look anything
confused by that critique.
Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird one because Snow White was drawn like a 14-year-old. That was really kind of nice that she was very much drawn like a 14-year-old. There wasn't there was no over-sexualization of her, nothing. And Sleeping Beauty looks like her age or older. So I don't agree with that at all. The angularness of the entire film, The detail of her face and her hair is just so light years ahead.
That was so confusing to me. The story,
really
get it.
They both sing to birds. They both have like soprano-y voices. You have the kiss. You like,
right.
You have a very vindictive villain who's very petty. Like I get that. And
but for them to be like, oh, it's all the same. Yeah. It's the same person. You're just doing it again. I'm like, okay, it's not that same.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. It's really not. And I will say the first 3 princesses, because we learned in the Ariel episode that there's a 30-year gap between Sleeping Beauty and Ariel. That all 3 of these first princesses have a very similar perfectness to them. Like they do hit all of the checkpoints to what the believed idea of being a perfect princess to Disney was. So that's very similar. Like the gentleness, the sweetness, all of them sing to birds. So there's that. Which I find really interesting, and have animal companions.
Were they all made in the same era of feminism? I don't know if I'm wording that right.
No, I know. Yeah,
you just know that better than I do. You know the timelines of that better.
The first, what we can dig out in American history would be the suffragette movement. And then in the 20s, there would have been the big flapper movement and all of that. So they all would have been, here's why it hit me as you were saying that I think fairy tales might have also stopped, and why Sleeping Beauty may have also not have dug in the same way was if it was done in 59. So we're at the end of the 50s, where the perfect housewife, the American dream, all of that is living. And in the 60s and into the 70s, I mean, we're getting a lot more freedom in women, and we're getting a lot more movements to slowly get to work. And you're starting in the 70s, I think you're starting the initial trying to expose harassment and that kind of idea. So once we're leaving the 50s into the 60s hippie movement, and even the teeny bopper movement, where women are getting a little more independent, I think those ideals of what the princesses to Disney represented may not have dug in the same way, because they're starting to see,
because this didn't even make it past 59.
It didn't have a foothold. And I think there was a change in what women wanted to see in work. Like, I mean, there's the I think women started having more jobs, and I think having that just sweet and demureness was losing its luster. Yeah. So I think it was a victim. I think I might be a victim of a lot of different things. The decade-long development and.
Okay, I just was wondering if they were in.
They would be in a similar
same area.
Definitely Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty would have been in a similar but different ends of a decade. So I think that's kind of where the different feel is. Snow White's in a very different time period of stuff in 37. So Snow White to Aurora is 20 years. Yeah. And then Aurora to Ariel is 30. Yeah.
And the gap seems so much bigger to Ariel, even though it's only 10 years. Yeah. Than it is from Snow White.
Yeah.
And now the movie it flapped by it a lot, because it cost $6 million at the time to make, which is
so much money.
Double Peter Pan that they had just done, double Alice in Wonderland, double Lady and the Tramp, and they only made 5.3 mil. So the company was about to go bankrupt.
Yeah,
lay off a bunch of people. So it's so interesting to me that the movie with the female character that they put more effort into did so poorly.
Yep.
And like we talked about, it's the times stuff, but Snow White just kept being a powerhouse. Yeah. And even to this day, Aurora did have a revival, if you will, during the Renaissance, the Disney Renaissance. She suddenly became popular again. Or popular for the first time, rather.
Yeah. Yes.
And now she's on all the floats at Disney. Yeah. Maleficent's very popular. They remade the movies. Yeah. They're doing all this stuff, making live actions. Yeah. And things. So she is now up there in popularity with a lot of the other characters. Yeah. And that's also interesting. Yeah. During the Renaissance, that she was revived in a way that couldn't be prior to that.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just didn't even try. Who knows?
Yeah, that feel like they may have like tried to like ignore it. And then when they finally put VHSs and stuff out, maybe she got a nice rebirth. Because I mean,
something.
It's gorgeous. Like it is.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Dead
it is
gorgeous.
A stunning movie.
Yeah. The art style was unique. And that might also probably threw people off too. Like, where's the pretty backgrounds and all these weird proportions and things.
I know, you're right. Why is everything a cube?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, and but it is two like fun, original ladies. Mm-hmm. Two of the three OG classic princesses.
Yeah. It's really fun rewatching. I enjoyed rewatching Snow White just for the awe of what they accomplished. I have no desire to like just go watch it for fun by any means. No. But I will say like just thinking through what they had to do that film was incredibly impressive. And she's fun. Mm-hmm. Maybe Aurora should have just been in the whole film. Maybe that would have solved it for them. You know, maybe they didn't care about Philip. I don't know.
No idea. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we'll talk in the after hours of why things went awry.
Yep.
But thank you guys for listening along. I will leave you with a Snow White fun fact.
Love it.
So there are two things. Mm-hmm. There once was a Broadway musical of Snow White. It did very poorly.
No.
It did. It reached the Muni and was there for 10 years, but then it closed in 1980.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. They even made releases of the stage show for VHS, but clearly, like, it didn't. Make it past the 80s because
I've never heard of that.
I didn't even know it existed. Like I've never heard of it. They've never done it.
That's crazy.
So that's interesting. And then also there are shout outs to other Grimm fairy tales in like scattered throughout the Snow White story, including and not limited to her being dressed in rags. Does not happen in the original story, but it does happen in Cinderella.
Yeah, it does. It's very similar color scheme.
And she's also surrounded by white doves, and I'm totally going to say that wrong. White doves while she's working, just like the Grimm brothers, Anchenputtel. Anchenputtel? Patel? I don't know. Something like that. But yes, there were a lot of like little
that's cool
Easter eggs of different Grimm's fairy tales in that one.
That's really sweet. I love that.
So
thank you for joining us for these.
Listening.
Yeah, these two classics. They sleep a lot in their movies, but they still are wonderful little princesses.
Actually, they don't sleep a lot. Aurora only sleeps for a couple hours.
That's fair. And
interesting point.
Snow White is like an indiscriminate amount of time. I guess Sleeping Beauty just had a good nap.
Unnamed Prince. She had a really solid nap.
Like a solid, maybe like half a day because they do like steal Philip, you know, and do the stuff. Yeah. I could use a nap like that. That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I take it.
Oh my gosh. Enjoy your naps, friends. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Damsels in Dialogue. Tune in next week as we journey through the forest of Scotland with the only Pixar studio princess, Merida.
If you enjoyed what you heard today, you can help us reach even more listeners by subscribing to the podcast and leaving a rating or comment on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you are listening.
If you want to join us for even more discussions about Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, or extra thoughts about any of our episodes, head over to our Patreon. There you can support the podcast and unlock an entire library of our exclusive after-hour video podcasts with new episodes arriving each month. You can also unlock research notes, bloopers, and more.
Follow us on social media and at our website on damselsinddialogue.podbean.com. Until next time, this has been Damsels in Dialogue.
Have a nice day.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Royal Princess Parties, LLC, and is produced by Hello Out There Audio, part of Hello Out There Productions.